And welcome into the Friday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. Hope everybody is off to a good start on this Friday. Got a lot to get into today on the program. Jared Stillman will join us at 7 o'clock. Teron Davenport at 8 o'clock. Talking all things Titans with him, so looking forward to that. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you?
Good. So the Preds are good again, huh?
I guess so.
Good to know.
Who knew
How about that?
Who knew that you two, and just ripping that away from them, would have so much power over this group? They should have scheduled a concert earlier in the year.
Yeah, I guess so.
Just ripped it away.
Just keep dangling carrots and then taking them away. Speaking of U2, and Alex Doherty is now ripping U2 on Twitter. I don't know what to do with people who don't love U2. You hurt my heart. But Preds, don't worry. It wasn't that great of a show. Just keep winning.
Yeah,
You're
just
fine.
don't worry about it. Nick Keyser, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great and a little congested still, but feeling better for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
Still, I didn't know you were sick this week.
No, I'm not just the weather changes really messed up my sinuses. Not sick, but just, the weird foggy feeling was a couple days ago for sure.
Gotcha.
Tennessee sick.
Yes, there you go.
That's what I like to call it. Tennessee sick. Yeah, Tennessee sick.
There we go.
That's good.
Thanks.
I like that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's going to be 70 on Monday. It's going to be 48. I'm looking at my weather app. Be like mid-40s, late high 40s tomorrow. 72, 73 Monday, Tuesday. That's how people get sick.
Yeah, but 70, 70s, high 60s Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good. Let's go to Indy. Actually, I can't complain too much. Sunday, only 57.
Okay.
But Monday and Tuesday, 66.
All right.
Both days. So I'm okay.
It'll be a bright,
actually pretty
sunny paradise up there in Indy.
That's
for the combine.
That's definitely better than normal. So, although with the lows are still, the low is 55 Tuesday. Wow.
You're in good shape.
Wild. Okay. Might not even bring a jacket.
Good shape for Rexrode coming over to the combine next week.
How exciting.
Scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about the NFL combine?
The combine itself, always zero. Okay? Remember last year, checking in, and they messed up my credential or something, and then Easton Freeze came in, and I think it was his first combine. He was really excited, and he's all in the NFL and everything, and I was just I kind of felt bad. I was like, this sucks, man. This thing sucks. Why are you excited about it? This is trash. And he's just like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, all right, you whatever.
You just enjoy it.
Some people love it. It's fine. You have access to people, so that's good. And then you have the testing, and sometimes something crazy like Metcalf will, his 40 or something will be interesting. But oh my God, he put up 225 19 times. Let's all gather around. Like any other sport, subjecting people to this, people would be like, what the hell am I watching this for? But somehow the NFL managed to pull it off.
They really did. It's unbelievable. Looking forward to that next week. Joe Rexrode live from the combine up there. He'll have you covered on all things Tennessee Titans.
And by the way, like you said before the show, in our pre-show meeting, we go through a lot of things in those several hours.
Extensive conversations.
Brand Carthon is speaking.
Hey.
He's on the board. And I don't. Who was that said that this week? I don't know if Rand's even talking.
Kuharski.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking. Go back to Jersey. Get some pizza in New Jersey, Kuharski. No, he's talking. I think so. One of them's at 9:15 and one of them's at 9:45.
Okay.
On Tuesday. So they will both break huge news right after our show.
Correct.
So there you go.
Yes, that sounds about right. Preds win 4-1 last night against L.A. They have 2 empty net goals to kind of close things out there last night against the Kings. Yakov Trenin gets the Predators on the board. Kevin Fiala tied it up for the Kings at 1-1 in the first period. Then a goal from Jankowski in the second period, and then Colton Sissons and Lozon ice it away to get the 4-1 win last night. Colton Sissons ending up with 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points last night. And don't look now. The Nashville Predators have won 3 games in a row on the road, and the 2 most difficult games of this road trip, at least on paper, they have now won. Now, St. Louis won yesterday as well, 4-0 against the New York Islanders. So the Predators still are not in a playoff spot, but they are tied with the Blues at 62 points. They're now only 4 back of the Kings, and now 3 up on Seattle, 3 up on Calgary, and 4 up on the Minnesota Wild. So that's a big win for the Preds last night.
What a freaking week.
Yeah.
Like, again, 1 week ago, I was probably just getting to bed after an incredible U2 show in Vegas. But you were talking about maybe one of the worst losses you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it looked bad. And all of a sudden, look at these guys and how they're playing right now. But you know what? We gone 6 minutes. We haven't talked about the ads. What are we talking about the Preds for? It's the ads who've won 18 in a row, huh, Keezer? Huh?
That's true.
He's not listening.
I'm listening to you, Joe, because Askarov's won 13 in a row for himself.
Number 2 on the ESPN.
Number 2.
Number 2 play.
On top 10, yeah.
How
He had a
about
couple
that?
huge saves yesterday.
No, he is fun to watch. But the Admirals play-by-play, though, right now, oh, boy. We need to calm down a little bit, folks.
There was a lot of that going on
Talking
yesterday.
to you and your
I
people,
do
Keezer.
not tweet play-by-play of their games.
I know.
Yeah.
Believe me, I watch carefully.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
He's keeping tabs.
Notifications are on for Joe.
I'm keeping tabs. But no, but anyway, yeah. We got it. We'll have I think the last hour is all ads, right?
I think so.
And the one segment on the Brewers.
Yes.
Yeah, but for now, Preds, pretty good.
Yes.
How about Saros? Saros and Sissons increasing their trade value.
Yeah, well, look, Saros, what did he end up with yesterday? Let's see here. 27 saves. So 27 saves on 28 shots by L.A. Predators really didn't generate all that much last night offensively. They finished with 21 shots on goal. And like I said, 2 empty netters to kind of, elevate the score a little bit at the end of the game there. But, a game where they didn't give up a ton when they did. Saros was there to answer the bell. And like I said, you've won 2 games now on the road, on the western part of this road trip against Vegas and L.A. that are good teams and are playoff teams. And I know, Vegas is struggling right now, and Mark Stone got hurt the other night against the Preds. He's on injured reserve, and they've kind of been going through it a little bit injury-wise. Still a big win on the road. Last night against L.A., big save Dave. Let in one he'd probably like to have back against Jankowski last night. But Predators, to their credit, were able to take advantage of it. And then now you look at the rest of the trip. San Jose coming up tomorrow. Anaheim on Sunday.
Don't say it.
And it's setting yourself up for a really interesting part of the road trip here, too, because you've taken care of the 2 really tough teams. Now, can you handle business against teams that you should handle business against this weekend? That's going to be the next test for the Predators.
When this team, and I've heard this internally, but like it's playing out. When this team hears negative things, plays on the road, isn't supposed to win, good stuff.
Yep.
Here's good things, plays a team it's supposed to win, plays at home, it's bad things. Which is totally, I guess, that's a young team thing, but as we've talked about, it's not entirely a young team. That's
Right.
what's interesting.
Right, and the good news is they're not at home. They are.
That is
they're
true.
going to remain on the road.
That's true. Like, if they were playing the Sharks at home this weekend, throw everything in on the Sharks.
Yes.
But they are on the road.
They're on the road, and look, this is. I think you reach different points throughout the year where the maturity of your team gets tested a little bit. And look, it's the NHL, so San Jose absolutely can come up with a performance where they just look really good one night and they win the game, and it's not necessarily the Predators taking them lightly. It's just San Jose playing well. That happens all the time in the NHL. But, look at what they've got on paper, what Anaheim has on paper with some of the injuries they've had to even some of their young guys. These are 2 games where you need to find a way to get some points if you're the Predators here. And I think this is one of those marks of the season of, all right, things have been going really well this week. You've beaten 2 really good teams on your western part of your road trip. St. Louis was a good team who you beat to start all this thing off. Are you a mature enough team to really bear down here and handle business against teams that you should win? And we're going to find out.
So if they split these 2 games, what's the road trip?
It's a pretty good road trip.
Still a pretty good road trip.
Yeah. Going on
6 out of 8.
6 out of 8
pretty
points
much always
on
good.
a road trip you'll take.
Yeah.
Now you're looking to the point where you've got the opportunity for the gravy, and you want the gravy. So, that's an opportunity that could end up being the difference in a playoff spot or not coming down the stretch here. But I mean, even let's say they win, and then the next night against Anaheim, they take it to overtime and lose. I mean, I think if you're the Predators fan, you'd probably sign up for that right now. 7 out of 8 points on the trip, and then just come on back home for 5 in a row after that. And that's going to really
problem.
be the test, right? It's like
that's the
all
issue.
right, you got 5 in a row coming up at home. Can you find a way to take advantage of that too?
I think Brunette's going to start like making these guys stay at the YMCA or something when they're in town.
You guys are not
it's
allowed
under
to go to your
consideration.
house. Yeah,
No AirPods, no phones.
can't go to your house. Get off social media. Is there a concert in town that we can schedule and then cancel?
Cold showers.
Yeah. Hey, say what you will. I mean, we had all this stupid talk about Andrew Brunette last week and people yelling about him. I mean, the whatever Trotz and Brunette saw, it apparently has worked with this team this week. So, are we giving them credit now? Are we still mad? Like what's going on with the Brunette discussion?
I mean, I don't look. I'll say this: as far as the coaching discussions go, and there's a lot of them. I mean, there's been a lot of one coach fired. I didn't think was going to be fired. You know, well, when it comes down to it, results are going. It's going to go to that person, which is fine. But yeah, like first year coach, that's a wild. If Jared doesn't have that opinion, and you do, like, and you're beyond him, then that's where you should look at yourself and say, wait a minute, what am I doing here?
Maybe check yourself a little bit.
A little bit.
615.
Speaking of Jared, we'll have Jared on at 7.
We will. Looking forward to that. Coming up at 7 o'clock. 615-737-1025, our number. Another big win for the Preds last night. We'll take your thoughts on that. They win 4-1 in L.A., and they're still hanging right there on the edge of a playoff spot heading through this Western road trip. 2 more games coming up this weekend, which we will discuss. Those games later in the show. Weekend winners back on the program today.
Okay.
At 8:30. So looking forward
do
to
it.
that. Coming up a little bit later in the show. We'll continue the discussion on the Predators coming up next. More of your thoughts on the game. And an interesting goalie take yesterday that I can't wrap my head around.
We can rip someone other than Jared.
We can.
Very exciting.
Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, which are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Robbie and Rexrode, brought to you by Medical House Calls. Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls. Appreciate them being our partners here on the program. Taking your thoughts on the Preds. Preds win 4-1 last night against the LA Kings. This is a really, the interesting part of this is, okay, so they're in LA, and now they're going to fly to San Jose, take on the Sharks, and then they're going to fly back
south.
LA, Anaheim,
Yeah.
and take on the Ducks.
Yeah.
An interesting scheduling quirk there.
It's a little weird, but I mean, it's quick flights.
It is.
And I assume, so they probably will charter and just go to Anaheim Airport, right?
I would assume so.
Yeah. But still, yeah, a little weird. Like if you could just
Stay
knock
south,
out Anaheim
and then go
first
north.
and then go, yeah.
But that's part of it, I guess. So we'll see how they handle that. Going back to the maturity test that we talked about last segment. So I was listening to Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace yesterday, and they were having a really good discussion about Saros, Askarov, the future of the goaltending position. And, we talked yesterday about the Elliot Friedman report that, at one point it felt like it was about 99% that UC Saros was going to be back here and that there was going to be a contract extension, and that from people that he's talked to, it's a little bit more closer to 50-50. And we were like, okay, 50-50. That's the first time we've heard that phrase there. So they were talking about that yesterday, and we're going through a bunch of different scenarios. Like what happens if you trade UC Saros and Askarov is the guy? Do you risk bringing him up too quickly? What happens if you don't trade UC Saros and you trade Askarov? How much trade value is there for Askarov based on what he's done this year? And then Willie threw out another scenario, which I know you and I basically dismiss out of hand, but this was what Willie was talking about yesterday. And I do want to be clear that Willie was not saying that, this is for sure what they should do and this is the way that they should go. But he was saying, what about the option of doing what they did with UC Saros, which was basically signing him to a bridge deal and having him be the backup to Pecorine for a few years, and then going with Saros after that, and going with that approach with Askarov and Saros, and saying, you know what, we like UC Saros, we like what he brings in net, you sign him to an extension, and you sign Yaroslav Askarov when the time comes for his contract to be up to a bridge deal, and you've got a Saros-Askarov tandem in Nashville for a few years as a starting/backup goalie.
Why is Willie saying this?
What do you make of that?
Why is Willie saying this?
I don't know.
I'm first of all excited that we can rip a coworker here other than Jared.
Yes.
It doesn't work. I don't think you can do that. I think that's a huge mistake, right? I don't think it's even a consideration.
You could do it. I don't know that it would be a very wise. I mean, it goes back to what we've talked about the whole time, right? Asset management. So let's play that out. Let's say that they want to sign UC Saros to another deal. So he's got one more year left on his deal after this one, and then the extension would kick in. And you want to go with a Saros-Askarov duo for the next, 2-3 years. So what does that look like? You're giving another contract to Saros. You're bringing Askarov up to the point where he's not really playing all that much. I mean, let's say, because that's the other thing. He's either not going to be playing all that much, or he is going to be playing all that much. And it's like, okay, well, if he's playing half the games, why did you just give UC Saros a contract extension and pay him all that money, right? There's that part of it that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, look, and you're not doing this and giving him the kind of deal that we've been talking about, right?
I don't think so.
I guess I didn't hear this, but is Willie suggesting that maybe the Saros deal is scaled down from what we think the market dictates?
No, I didn't hear that come up. I mean, I think the idea was just having that tandem for a few years and then making the decision a little bit later on, which I think devalues, especially the Saros part of it.
Yeah, you'll get nothing for anyone.
Right. I think Saros, you could make the argument, well, at that point, he'll be under contract, and at least the team will know that if they trade for him, he's under contract and they've got him. He'll also be older. And look, there's a risk, too, with that, right? What happens if you get a year or two into Saros' next deal and he's not playing quite as well, he's not going to be that attractive of a trade option.
And I think Askarov might be freaking good.
Yeah.
And so then, like you said, Askarov is like, well, you got to give him more games. And then why the hell do you have $8 million sitting there?
Exactly.
You can't. I reject it out of hand.
I
reject it out of hand.
I just don't think there's a scenario where that makes sense. I don't think there's – and again, I understand the Rene Saros way that they did it, and it worked out for them, right? Like Rene was the guy. Saros came up, and Saros was the backup for a few years, and then Saros took over and was the guy. But it's a different situation. And again, I looked it up yesterday.
Yeah, it's a very different situation.
Pekka Rinne, Saros started to come up in the 16-17 season, and they did that thing. The expansion draft was going on that year, so they did that thing where they'd play him every now and then they'd send him right back down to Milwaukee to make sure he was still getting games down there. And then when they really needed to start from their backup goaltender, most time it was UC Saros getting called up and then sent right back down. And then eventually at the end of the year, he was the backup goalie for the Predators in the playoffs. Well, in 16-17, Pekka was 34 years old, right?
Right.
And I obviously he was still playing at a high level. The next year after that, when Saros was the backup, he won the Vezina Trophy. So it's not like Pekka wasn't playing well, but the point is he was older. He was 34, 35. Saros is significantly younger than that right now. So if you're doing this, it's not the same situation as Pekka and Saros was.
Pekka Rinne wasn't embarking on his big deal.
Right. He was in the midst of it.
Yeah, he was about to get a bridge deal. When did he get that? He got the bridge deal in what, 19 or 20, something like that, right?
I think 19, but I'll go back and double check that.
So he was that deal was maturing, and also there's a big difference with Saros too. Saros, I remember that 16-17 season. Saros was a sensation. It was like, this kid is good, but like he was not really a trade piece. Askarov is a trade piece, I believe, as right now as a guy that people look at with his traits. So both of these guys are at this point. At that point, Pekka Rinne was in his mid-30s, and I remember going into that year, Pekka Rinne, I don't remember which publication it was, but ranked him like, whatever, the 28th best goaltender in the league or whatever. I mean, he really showed people in the 16-17 and obviously 17-18 seasons until it ended against Winnipeg. So in both cases, you really had a lot less that you could bring back for both guys, along with the other differences. Very, very different.
Well, and UC Saros right now is 28, and he'll be 29 coming up here in about 2 months. But he's 28, and it's just a much. You're talking about at that point a 29-year-old, and when Saros came in behind Pekka was 34. That's a 5-year difference. A 5-year difference in pro sports is a pretty darn significant difference.
Well,
when you start thinking about the way that that's laid out.
And in goalie history, and I think this has changed a little bit too, but like it's not running backs, but goalie history. Once you get into 30s, typically there's a pretty big drop off.
Yeah. Well, especially when you get into your mid-30s, right? That's
right. Like you get past 32, 33,
right?
Where Pekka was at that point.
Let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Weston. Weston, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, guys. This is a thought that I've been kind of teeter-tottering on for the past few days, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, is if we trade Saros and it works out this year to where we trade him at the deadline and our team is kind of in that position to where we can make a push for the playoffs, would it be a bad idea to trade him and then use those assets and then go out and maybe get 1 or 2 additions that are maybe on the lesser side of the monetary value? Or would it just be better to wait and hold on to those assets and maybe wait till offseason? Thanks, guys.
Yep, thanks for the call, Weston. Well, if you're trading Saros, the hope would be that at least one of the assets that you get back from that can help you right now immediately with your group. I don't know. Like, first off, like, if you're going to trade Saros, is it going to be significantly before the deadline, or is it going to be on deadline day? Because if it's deadline day, you don't have a whole lot of time to then flip that around and go get somebody else at that point.
Yeah, right. But also, one thing that interesting, kind of related to that, like if you talk about the Canes or you talk about the Kings, Niches or Byfield or whatever, like if those teams are making this deal, those are guys that have been popularly thrown out there.
Yeah.
if those teams are making this deal to make a run, like I would think that there'd be some hesitation to give up anyone who significantly helps them on the ice.
I can tell you, LA's not giving up Byfield. Like people can stop that. Like they're not giving up Quentin Byfield.
So that would be the case for, in the off season, it's a little different, right? Like you're not right now in a run, so maybe in some ways it would make more sense.
In some ways, but again, like if a team really wants Saros, I think part of the appeal right now is you get him for this postseason run, and you get him for next year, and then you can have an extension conversation with him after that.
But for the Preds, let's say then, because I do believe that I think Trotz is, without completely coming out and saying it, it's kind of made it clear that he wants a player, like a proven player. Okay, so 2 first-round picks and 2 top prospects, high-level prospects. Is that enough?
2 first-round picks? I would consider it for that. I would.
So that may be the concession you have to make if you're Trotz, is you're not getting, that forward that can play in the league right now.
Which the New Jersey part of this, Dawson Mercer has been linked a lot. He can play. Like, that guy can play in the league right now. But to your point, how much is a team, if they're going to trade for UC Saros, are they willing to give up one of those guys that's helping them currently on their roster right now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you want to make a run, you need everybody. Right?
Exactly. 615-737-1025. More of your thoughts on the goaltending situation for the Predators, and another couple of developments on that yesterday that continues to be really interesting to monitor. We'll get into that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan this Sunday as Vanderbilt women's basketball takes on Arkansas on the road. Pre-game at 1:45, tip-off at 2 o'clock with coverage also available on 94.9 The Fan's app and at 94.9thefan.com. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Friday morning. Taking your thoughts on the Preds, 615-737-1025, our phone number. How do you view the goaltending situation? How do you view the UC Saros, Yaroslav Askarov discussion that we've had? April in Portland says, I wanted to trade Lankinen if you go on a heater and bring Askarov up to finish the season with Saros. Have juice because he will be on his last year of his contract and Askarov on his rookie contract next year, and then make the decision at next year's trade deadline. This from April in Portland.
And I wrote back to her. I said the value will be down quite a bit for Saros at that point. That's the issue. But it's still a better plan than Willie's plan. Every plan's better than Willie's plan.
Willie, get a better plan.
Bad plan.
Willie, what's the plan?
Bad plan. Gover was like telling. Apparently, he was screaming at the radio yesterday. So glad to be on the same side again, Gover.
Well, look, I guess if you wanted to just like really emphasize goalie, like it's not a bad plan, right? Like if your plan was we need to be as good at goalie as we possibly can, get Saros and Askarov, then okay,
load it up, baby.
Right, but
it's a hard cap.
You got to use it's a hard cap, and you got to use one of these two guys. In my opinion, is going to have to bring you back somebody that can score. Like you got to find some offense out there, and whether it's Askarov or Saros, one of the two of them, to me, has to go. Like one of the two of them has to go, and you have to get some offensive help that way. And by the way, UC Saros was really good last night against LA. Askarov yesterday in Milwaukee. They won their 18th straight game. He won his 13th straight game, and he made a couple of saves yesterday that were just ridiculous.
Yeah. One of them after a poke check that I couldn't believe he tried.
Yes.
Should have resulted in a goal at his expense because he did the poke check, but he turned it into like a double ridiculous highlight.
Yeah. David on the text line with an interesting question.
It's
if Saros is traded, is Askarov brought up immediately, or does he continue to get starts in Milwaukee through the playoff run? He needs to be starting somewhere. If it's Lankinen here, who's the backup for the Preds?
That is a good question.
To answer your question, yes.
I mean, he's got to be up here.
If Saros gets traded, I think he is the starter here. And then I think what happens is if the Predators make the playoffs, then Askarov's your goalie as long as it goes. And if he doesn't, you send him back down to Milwaukee come playoff time, and he's the starting goaltender for the Admirals as they go through their playoff run there.
And I am taking this question, David. I'm assuming you're not actually suggesting the Preds would be like, no, we can't mess up the ads.
No.
Yeah, no, but yeah. I mean, I think he's up here, and then it's probably also a little bit of like, I mean, it's not like Askarov and then Lankinen only on back-to-backs. I mean, who knows? Lankinen probably get more starts, right?
Probably.
I mean, maybe a little bit of a shared situation. That does bring up the question of, because obviously this is going great for Askarov. When he came up here briefly, I thought he looked good then too.
He did.
Is there any concern about – it's not enough to not do this, but is there any concern about just coming up too quickly for him right now at 21?
Yeah, I think there's a concern about that. I mean, look, as well as he's playing and as good as he looks at the AHL level, as we always talk about, there is a significant difference between American Hockey League play and National Hockey League play. So especially this time of year when you're in a playoff run and you're going against teams that are I mean, it's high level hockey. So is he completely ready for that at this point? I have no idea. Now, the typical signs that you look for at the American League level as to whether or not with those. So, I mean, look, he's 28 games this year in Milwaukee, a 2.04 goals against, a 923 save percentage. And right now he's on a stretch where he's won 13 in a row. He's had 5 shutouts during that span. And I think his save percentage during that span is like 940. So, I mean, that's about as much as you can do to prove that you're ready at that point.
Yeah. He looks great. So, and I do feel like we've talked about how fun he's going to be, whether it's here or somewhere else. I think he's going to be an actual lively personality in a league that could use a lot more of that.
I agree.
I do feel like his kind of carefree thing probably helps him if it doesn't go well, like you could take some lumps and you would think.
In all seriousness, like I think we saw a pretty good example earlier this year of him having a little bit of ice in his veins, which, I mean, look, think about him growing up in Russia and who he probably idolized hockey-wise. And look, I'm sure there were some goalies in there, obviously. But he went against Alexander Ovechkin and Evgeny Kuznetsov in that shootout.
Yeah.
And look, Kuznetsov
cool.
is not at the level of Ovechkin, obviously. But two guys that are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And he stoned them both. And he didn't allow the moment to become too big for him. He didn't get, he wasn't just sitting there shaking at his boots at Alex Ovechkin coming down at him.
He didn't get his
went out,
autograph.
He challenged him, and he stopped him, and then gave it a little something after he did it, too. Like, I think it's a very small example, but I think that was, like, I stood up and took note of that when that happened. All right, this kid's got a little moxie to it,
Swag.
which I like.
He's got swag.
Yeah. Which
and I think that helps you.
Yeah, I think it does help you. And look, make no mistake about it. Let's play this out and say they trade Saros at the deadline and Askarov comes up. He's going to have a stretch coming down, the stretch run here into the playoffs where it doesn't go very well for him. Like, he's going to struggle a little bit. And I think you have to know that, though. I mean, you have to know that if you're Barry Trotz, if you're making these decisions, if you're Andrew Burnett coaching these decisions. Like, if you make this decision, it's probably not short-term the best thing for your group. Like, there are going to be some growing pains for him at the NHL level. But I think you make that decision in the back of your mind knowing that and hoping that once you get through those growing pains, he's got a chance to be pretty special in the league, which I think he does. I think he's got a chance to be – and that's the other part of this. Beyond the money, beyond the contractual commitment that you would have to give to UC Saros, it's also resetting your clock a little bit, right? Like, Saros is not old by any stretch of the imagination. He's 28. He'll be 29 coming up. But if this works out with Askarov and that's the way you go, he's 21 right now.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I think the counter to that, and I assume Willie spoke on this, and I mean, this is a counter, which is, let's remember the timeline of Roman Josi. Let's remember the timeline of Philip Forsberg and even Ryan O'Reilly now. And, like, that's still going to be a core that you want to build around and be able to win at the highest level. So is Askarov ready for that quickly enough? Whereas, you've seen Saros play at a 920 level in this league, at a Vezina level in this league. We don't know that Askarov can do that over a full season yet. So does that set things back in terms of what you're trying to do with this group right now?
I hear that. I also think there needs to be a little bit of reality on that, which is right now at the current pace, unless something big changes and you bring in a player that right now you just don't have, that timeline's not going to happen. Like, you have to, like, Roman Josi is he's approaching his mid-30s right now. Ryan O'Reilly's 33. Forsberg's, 29, 30 at this point, so he's fine. But unless there's either a young guy that you have in your group right now that's in Milwaukee that blossoms into an absolute stud, which we'll see.
More than one, really.
Probably more than one. Or you position yourself with one of these guys to get one of those guys, those studs. Like, I don't see that current trajectory happening at a time it's not going to happen quick enough, I guess is my point.
I mean, to me, it's like, and I thought this going in, it's like the idea should be that the 25-26 season you could have a pretty darn good group with, I think you're right. I think maybe both of those things have to have happened. Now, here's the question. Well, is Askarov's surge right now at 21 with that price, as people look around the league, if you do think, it's got to be Saros, or you're not getting enough from Saros and you're just going to have to, give him the deal, what can Askarov fetch? How much has that changed during this year?
I got a texter that says, Willie's plan is exactly what we need to do. Who do you think will play in the net if you trade Saros? Lankinen is not Saros, so if you intend to at least try to make the playoffs and remain competitive, then you need a real goalie. Askarov might be the next top goalie, but he has no NHL experience. Speed, quality, decision-making, AHL, NHL, very different. If Saros will accept a 5-year deal at a reasonable, slightly overpaid salary, you do that all day long. Guys, he is not taking a 5-year deal. Can we live in reality,
Yeah.
please?
You got to understand how NHL contracts work. It's not happening.
No. I mean, he is going to get 7-8-year deal. That's what it's going to be.
And it's going to be around $8 million a year.
Yeah.
Or
that's
he
what
will
you're committing to.
Go into free agency, and maybe the Preds say, "Okay, go see what happens in free agency." Maybe it doesn't happen as it's not as good as he hopes. But no, that's not happening. And it's again like it's a great thing if this team can make the playoffs. You don't make decisions right now about this team making the playoffs. You do not do that.
The best part of this whole text was just listening to both of you this morning. I have to question your understanding of hockey. And before you question me, I played for over 50 years. Well, apparently you need to play a little bit longer because you don't have much of an understanding of how contracts work.
Where is this? I don't see this text.
My God.
Who is it?
I am so tired of just pure, unadulterated stupidity on the text line and on Twitter this week. I've had my fill of it. We got to stop it. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
From what you've heard, what has changed and what's the motivating factor for that? Why is it now 50-50 as opposed to maybe 90% a few months ago?
Well, I really thought that after Barry Trotz talked about Saros earlier in the year, I just didn't, he wasn't on my radar at all, Carolyn. Like he really wasn't. And so I just kind of put it away. And all of a sudden, some rumors and reports started coming out. I didn't really think much about them. And then, just some people started telling me that, you should start paying attention. And, the more calls I made, the more people told me that it's possible. And, I think that I just think that we've talked about this a lot over the past couple of weeks. I think the Predators are looking for offense. I think they are trying to find offense. And I think what they are learning is that Saros may be the piece that is best positioned to get them an offensive player.
That's Elliot Friedman yesterday on with Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace for his weekly visit every Thursday at 1 o'clock. We talked about Friedman's piece at Sportsnet, 32 Thoughts, discussing UC Saros. Said at one point, thought it was 99%. He was back, and now people in the know, people that know better than him, I think was the phrase that he used, says, a little bit more closer to 50-50. So what does that mean? What's the timeline of that? Like, are we talking 50-50 by this deadline? Are we talking 50-50 by the summer? Like, what does that mean? So, I don't know. With each passing day, especially during this winning streak by Milwaukee, like Yaroslav Zaskarov's value goes up. I think also the curiosity with him goes up too, right? In terms of, man, how good could this guy be at the NHL level? And again, you make the move. Short term, it's probably not great. It's probably not the best move for your team short term. Could it be long term? That's what this is about, right? It's the long term plan at goalie. Which move's better? Do you have more confidence that Yaroslav Askarov is your guy long term? Or at 29 years old, do you want to give another contract to UC Saros and have enough trust that into his 30s he's going to continue to be an elite goaltender for you? And maybe he will. I don't know. Like that's what makes his season so interesting, even though, by the way, he played very well last night. How much has this year, I guess, shaken the faith in him long term? Because I still think, look, he still proves, and he proved it again last night, when he's on, he's really, really good. There have been many games this year where Saros has been on and has looked really good. But part of this is forecasting, right? Like if you're Barry Trotz and your staff forecasting, all right, what's he going to be when he's 33, 34, 35? Like, is he going to be that guy where you're committing that money to him long term? And I don't know what the answer is, but he'll be making a lot of money, and you got to be right if that's what you're doing and you're signing UC Saros to a long-term deal.
He'll be making a lot of money. He may be diminished. We may be seeing him diminish this year. There's also just the uncertainties around things like it's a new system, and so how much has that affected him? I mean, I think maybe some, but then there's the concern about, again, his explosiveness, his athleticism. That's his superpower.
Yeah.
Right? So is he a little bit more suspect moving into the mid-30s than some goalies? So during those years, he's taken up $8 million off the cap, whereas you'd have a guy 7 years younger than him making what? I mean, when is Askarov up? I mean, obviously right now he's making $5.
Let me look on that. He is, let's see here. He signed through this year. He's making $925,000 at the NHL level this year. He signed through next year. So after next year, you would have to make another contract for him.
But
it's not going to be
that
much money.
The big deal.
No.
So you're talking about a few $1 million difference and several years difference, and maybe a big difference, potentially a difference in performance, but you don't know that because we have not seen him at the NHL level, and there are AHL heroes who aren't great in the NHL. I'm watching him more and more. I think he's trending to be pretty freaking good. Also, this is where someone asked in the text line, what could you get for him? I mean, I got to think there's some GMs out there. First of all, you have a bigger pool of teams, right?
For sure.
Wouldn't that be how you'd look at it? Like, you don't have to have a contender who's desperate right now. You know, you have a bigger pool of teams. And I'm sure some GMs are noticing Yaroslav Askarov.
Well, you're not getting as much as you would get for UC Saros.
No.
But there's no question his value has gone up. From when we were having this discussion last offseason until now, there's no question that his value has gone up. And just one last point on Saros before we get to Ryan on our phone line, or excuse me, on Askarov. Like, I do think sometimes you just have to allow, like, your educated guess to take over. Like, Askarov has been elite at every level he's been at. He's been elite over in Russia. He's been elite playing as a young kid with grown men over in Russia. That's why he got drafted where he got drafted in the first round, which doesn't happen in the NHL very often as a goalie. Now he's elite at the American Hockey League level. So does it automatically mean that he's going to be an elite goalie at the NHL level? No, it does not. But there is a pattern here of him everywhere he goes. He's really darn good. And I think at some point you have to just allow an educated guess to take over and say, well, the odds are, as long as there's not like some catastrophic injury, he's probably going to be pretty darn good at the NHL level. I think there's enough body of work there to be able to make that assumption.
Yeah.
So,
I'm with you. It all totally makes sense. There's still okay, maybe he's good, but he's not great. So
sure.
Is he ever going to have a season like, I mean, the last two seasons in particular for Saros were elite seasons. Is he going to be that good? I don't know. But he looks like he has all the ingredients.
They're great. And I hear everything you just said, and I agree. If he was that good, you would take it. There's also the question of, like, could he be better than that? Like, could he be better than that?
And will Saros
Because that's what he's drafted to be, by the way.
Yeah.
Is to be better than that.
And will Saros get back to that?
Right, exactly. Let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Ryan. Ryan, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, guys. Robby, you kind of hit it on the head. I was calling about is the fact that people do forget Askarov played in the second hardest league in the world in the KHL as a starter netminder. And it's bigger ice, which makes it harder on a goaltender to play, knowing that there's more ice for players to play against them, do trick skills and all that. But the other thing is, you trade Saros. I know it kills the fan base to do it, but you trade Saros, especially with how thin the goalie market is this trade deadline, with only 3 elite goaltenders on the market, possibly, and you have a handful of teams that desperately need a goalie, and they will pay the whole that they really want. They're trying to wait it out, I guess, but you have teams that will pay that ransom for a goalie that they desperately need.
Yep, thanks for the call, Ryan. Well, that's the question. Will they pay that ransom?
Well, Trotz is trying to get a bidding war going.
He's trying to get a bidding war.
He is using the media. We are useful idiots in the media to try to get teams try to get it, because obviously what he's hearing right now is not moving the needle
for him.
Right.
Otherwise, he'd be traded.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really interesting. I think as first off, they keep winning, so that makes it interesting. If we're having this same discussion a week and a half from now, and they're 4 points into a playoff spot, well, how does that factor into Barry Trotz's decision? I don't know.
Not if he gets the right call. And you know what? The room will be mad if they're rolling.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, and by the way, here goes your starting goaltender's gone.
Yeah.
They're going to be mad. But sometimes you gotta understand the business. Sometimes you don't get to go to YouTube. It's just life.
Sometimes you don't.
It's life in the NHL.
737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Jared Stellman. We'll get his thoughts on the UC Saros, Yaroslav Askarov conversation, and much more. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. And as we do every Friday morning at 7 o'clock, we welcome in our friend Jared Stillman to the program. Jared, good morning. How are you?
How do you guys do this? How do you do a 9:30 puck drop? I fell asleep during the third period. I tried to make it, all the way last night. I woke up when the Preds scored that empty netter. But, man, you guys up 6 o'clock in the morning, and my goodness gracious, how do you do it?
Up at 6. We have pre-show meetings there, pal. I don't know what you do over on your little Mickey Mouse program, but we have pre-show meetings.
Well, who would I have a pre-show meeting with?
Ian?
Me?
Yeah.
But you don't respect your producer? We do. We respect our producer.
Ian and I had a really long pre-show meeting yesterday. I called him at 1:53.
Oh, good.
And I was like, what do you think starting today, Titans or Preds? He's like, start Titans. I said, okay.
You're like, hey, find a clip with Vin Scully saying will, and I'll say he said we. Oh, brilliant.
Ian didn't
Thanks,
find that clip
Ian.
yet.
Yeah, that was a Jared
Oh,
find,
you
wasn't
found
it?
that clip?
Yeah.
Do you not understand the English language?
He's still upset from the competition the other day.
W-E-L-L, will celebrate.
I mean, you can't seriously, you're still trying to say he said we.
It's close enough. Calling field stance.
Close enough. There we go.
You ain't going to like this, but the goal doesn't count.
We actually just listened
We
to that.
did just listen to that. That was pretty good.
Pretty good stuff.
Could you imagine Jerome Boger doing one of those? I kept thinking about that. I was like, man, if you had Jerome Boger or like one of these universally hated referees that gets up there is like, all right, fans, shut up. You ain't going to like it. But Dylan Radins did false start on that play, and so the play doesn't count.
I know it's hard to believe it was his 6th infraction of the game, but he actually did false start again. So, Jared, we're obviously continuing the Saros-Askarov discussion. Saros looked great last night. Askarov was awesome yesterday down there in Milwaukee. This is becoming, I think, a really tough decision from the standpoint of we know what Saros has been throughout his career, which is an elite goaltender. He's having a little bit of a down year this year, but still has had some moments where he's looked very good. He'll be 29 coming up here in a couple months. He's due a contract extension after that. And you have a kid in Askarov that just continues to look great down in Milwaukee. I've made my stance on it pretty clear. I would trade Saros, and I think Askarov is going to be an absolute stud at the NHL level. But as we continue to gather more and more information on this, what do you think? What do you think gets this deal done? And you don't have to have specific players, but what's it going to take, do you think, for Barry Trotz to actually pull this off and do it?
So, I mean, first off, I want to say that I thought they both played incredible yesterday in their respective games. And, Joe doesn't know about anything that happened in this town before he got here. But
True.
Those Askarov saves last night, Robbie, those looked like Pecorine versus Vancouver in 2011.
Vintage, yep.
Which I think is probably some of the best goaltending I've ever seen in my life. And so, I mean, look, Askarov is ready. Now, is he ready every night to be the guy and be good at being the guy every night? That is debatable. But is he ready to be playing in the NHL? The answer is unequivocally yes. He's ready. I mean, his numbers right now are better at 21 years old than Igor Shesterkin's were at 24 years old in the AHL.
Yeah.
And so he's ready. Now, the second part of this is Barry, right? And I hear you guys talking about, well, Barry's trying to drum up a market, or Barry. I mean, maybe I'm ignorant. I don't know. But I think what Barry Trotz has done is he is telling everybody the price is the price. And if you want the goalie, this is the price. And I think the price is probably astronomical for a goalie, and the fact that we don't have a lot of recent goalie trades of this magnitude, and that there are guys like, as you pointed out to me earlier this week, Jacob Markstrom's on the market. Like, the fact that there are other guys on the market and we don't have, again, like a precedent of what a goalie goes for or a high-end goalie goes for, I think it makes it very difficult for another team to justify the price on a goalie. And I think that Barry actually has great leverage in the fact that I really do believe that he's willing to walk away. And if he has to go into next season with both goalies and have Askarov back up Saros and probably do the thing that they did with Saros where Askarov will pop up every time they need a spot start, and then he'll head right back down to Milwaukee and he'll get back in net. I mean, I think that it gives Barry a ton of leverage. Now, the clock is only ticking on the contract front, right? Because, next year, I would doubt that the return for Saros would be as high as it would possibly be this year. But at the same time, I mean, I think that Barry's not going to give him away for free, and I don't. Caroline was talking about dropping the price yesterday, and I'm like, I'm not dropping the price on UZ Saros when I don't have to. So I really think it's as simple as, I think the price is the price, and I think Barry probably wants one long-term asset, like a first-round pick, and I think he wants one long short-term asset, like, Quentin Byfield last night, or Dawson Mercer, whose name keeps getting thrown around, or, a young 20-something forward who's already in the NHL. I think if he were to be able to get that plus a second asset there, like a pick, I think he probably makes the deal. But I don't think that Barry's going to turn around and give him away for the Ekholm package last year. I think he probably wants more.
Right, sure he does. But to dismiss out of hand adjusting your price, I mean, you just said it yourself, Jared. Next year, it does go down. So he has leverage to a point, but it does go down next year. Now he's a rent-a-player, and you don't have the extra year in the contract. And who knows how he'll play in the meantime. So, I think that –
he might play great.
Well, he might. You're right. He might. But you still – the clock – moving away from this trading deadline, it is going to go down on you. So – the idea that you just this is the price and that's it. I mean, I think that you gotta be a little bit more flexible. I'm not talking about totally dropping it, but I also think you're right about goalie price. We don't have a lot of precedent for this. I do think that the position has been devalued in this league. I mean, there's too many teams that are winning championships without great goaltending now for that not to be the case.
So the one thing that I don't want to get into, though, is the idea of liquidating the goalie, right? Like the everything must go sale. I don't think you're at that spot. I mean, I think there's a chance the Predators are going to be pretty decent next year. And if that's the case, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with Saros in net. I mean, I hate the idea of, well, you lose him for nothing. And at the same time, I also am not giving him away just to give him away. And so there's a real rock and a hard place here where maybe this time next year, this team is in second place in the Central Division, and we're begging them not to trade Saros because we want to see them go compete. And I'm not ruling that out. The old man used to always say to me, and Porth and everybody else used to say, you never make a decision until you have to. And I think that, I said, well, but sometimes you do that and you end up giving Daniel Jones a big contract or something stupid like that. He said, sometimes you end up paying for it, but never make a decision until you have to. I don't think the Predators have to make a decision yet. I do think, though, that the idea of sending Askarov straight to Milwaukee next season, that's not going to work. He is ready. And right now you can justify it by saying we got two goalies that are playing well at the NHL level, and Askarov is still 21 years old, and Askarov – they have this great winning streak, so why mess with success? But I don't think that you can justify having him down in Milwaukee other than if you're just sending him down to get games next year while he sits behind Saros. But I will not rule this out either. Like, I asked Barry this week, what's the next step here? And he said the next step is for Askarov to get games in the NHL behind Saros and Lankinen so that he comes up, plays a game, goes back down. And when I hear Willie talk about how they, want to have, or he thinks they want to have Saros and Askarov on the team together, I don't completely discount that because Barry has uttered a similar sentiment. And so maybe there's some importance in that too. I'm not just going to liquidate the goalie just because, the clock is ticking, and if I don't trade him now, then it may be less next year when I don't like the returns that I'm getting right now.
Meanwhile, the team keeps winning. They've won 3 in a row now, and now you've got San Jose and Anaheim coming up this weekend, which are two teams that are at the bottom of the league here. So 2 questions for you. Number 1, do you think that, let's say they keep winning here before the deadline and they get themselves in a spot where they're either right in a playoff spot or right there on the edge of it like they are right now, do you think that should affect Barry Trotz's approach at the trading deadline? Do you think it will affect his approach at the deadline, with Saros kind of included in that discussion?
So I think there's one guy that is like a fringe trade deadline discussion piece, and that's Novak. Like everybody else, if they could trade Trennan, they would. If they can trade one of the 2 defensemen that are going to be UFAs in Fabro or Carrier, they will. Because right now the way they look at it is if they can trade Fabro, for instance, they're calling Spencer Stastny up. And so they think that he's ready to play right now. So they're not going to re-sign these guys long term because they think Stastny's going to be an NHLer. And I think they're opening a spot next year for Tanner Mollendijk. So they're not going to bring back Carrier or Fabro, in my opinion. So if they can trade one of those guys, they're going to. If they can trade both of them, they probably will. The same with Trennan and whatever else. The question is Novak, right? Like, I heard Elliot Friedman say yesterday, and you heard it, Robbie. I heard Elliot say that Novak, that he hears from other agents, not Novak's agents, not the Predators, that a contract for Novak is going to come in the $4 million range.
Well, he said in the fours, which could mean high fours.
I mean, Ryan O'Reilly makes $4.5 million a year. I'm not giving Tommy Novak more money than Ryan O'Reilly. I'm not giving him the same money as Ryan O'Reilly. No. I mean, it's crazy talk. So, like, I would like them to re-sign Tommy Novak at, like, $3.1 million, and even that's high for me, but the cap's going up, so fine. But 4.2,
yeah, I wouldn't do that.
4.5, what are we talking about here? So if the Predators aren't winning and Tommy Novak's camp is, you know, crossing their arms saying, we won in the fours, it's like, okay, well, you know, this guy's not going to be here next year. Go ahead and make the trade. He scores goals. You probably get something for him. If you're winning, you may keep Tommy Novak just because, well, he scores some goals and, you know, the best we're getting offered in return is a third-round pick or something like that, so you might as well keep him. He's the one guy that I think is kind of on the edge there. Again, with Saros, I think the price is the price. If New Jersey offers up, you know, that Sportsnet trade package with Seamus Casey and Dawson Mercer and a first-round pick, then I think the Predators will do it. If they don't, then I don't think that they will. Like, if they don't get that offer, I don't think that they'll make the Saros deal. So I really think that the true, you know, one deadline decision that they have that is complicated is Novak. And other than that, I think if they can trade Trennan, they will, because they'll call somebody up from Milwaukee, probably like LaRue. If they can trade Carrier and Fabro, I think they will. Obviously, if they could trade Tyson Barrie, I think we all agree that they would trade Tyson Barrie. There's just nobody out there who wants Tyson Barrie. And then, again, the price is the price on the goalie. The other thing I'm thinking about, too, is Lankinen, because I think Lankinen, a trade of Lankinen would provide the Predators with two things. Because Lankinen is not a starting goalie, but he's having a pretty good season as a backup. And I wonder if one of these teams that has zero cap space could make a deal with the Predators in which they receive Lankinen as kind of goalie insurance. Think like Toronto or somebody. They receive goalie insurance and send you over a player who's, you know, $4 million they don't want anymore, and then it creates $2 million in cap space for that team, and they get that goalie insurance, and then you have to give me more than the traditional fourth-round pick for Lankinen in order for me to take on that bad expiring contract.
Wow, Jared just talks a lot. By the way, Jared's 4.
You disagree with any of that?
No, it's fine. Jared's
Joey Stacks?
Jared is 4. He's 4 announcers who say we, by the way.
That was a disappointing
He wants his
development.
announcers to say we.
Yeah.
By the way, did we listen to Max last night? Did he have any of the...
I was telling Rexrode about that.
We gotta
I hope that there was a lot.
Monitoring.
I hope there's some trolling going on.
Hey, I'm good. Look, Max Harrelson, that's my guy. And I love the Homer broadcast. And when Nick played that cut in the update, all I wanted to hear was after Jankowski scored, I just wanted to hear you can put it on the board.
Hey.
Just from Max Hurst. That he should take that. In honor of Hawk Harrelson, Max Hurst should take the Hawk Harrelson, put it on the board, yes, every time one of the Predators players scores. And Hal needs to get into it with him the way that Tom Paciorek and then later Steve Stone used to get into it with Hawk Harrelson.
Listen, Harry Carey, 16 beers in, is better than Hawk Harrelson every day of the week. But I don't even have a problem with, again, like Mike Keith, like, yards or whatever, suck. That's all fine. That's Homer stuff. I'm okay with that. Have fun, enjoy all that. But just no one says we. It's like, we just had a great touchdown drive. No. That's all. I'm only talking about that. Not talking about anything else.
I went too long yesterday with Hal, so I didn't get to ask him specifically about the us and the we. But I did ask him about all the hockey night in Canada crying about the staff not getting to go to U2 in Vegas.
Yeah.
And Hal basically said, and I thought it was really well done, that Hal was like, hey, we on the staff, we're part of the team. You know, that, hey, you know, we lose 9-2, we lose as a team. And so we didn't do our parts either to be able to go and enjoy U2.
Why doesn't
got
Hal say
embarrassed.
we when he's calling games? I think he does a great job. I don't hear him saying we.
I have no idea if Hal says we or not.
He
This is something
doesn't.
I've never.
He does not.
Apparently, Max has been saying we for a while now, and I didn't know until you made a big
No,
deal. about it.
Max told me like, oh, that was a slip up. No.
No, he did not.
Yes, he absolutely did.
He did not
Well,
tell
he's
you
wrong
that.
because he said it for the whole year.
I'll show you the text.
I'll
That's
tell you right
Max's
now.
story.
If Max told you that, then Max is not telling one of us the truth, because I called Max on Tuesday morning or whatever morning it was. I woke him up and told him about what happened and encouraged him.
Oh, I told him what he said. He said, oh, okay, that's not usually how I intend to. I was a little rusty last night with some stuff since it was my first play-by-play in 3+ months. That's what he told me.
Probably just wanted to get you off the phone.
He probably did. So who's he lying to, me or Jared?
I don't know. We'll have to find out.
He's
I
lying
had
to
some
me?
very sage advice for
Oh, we're
Max.
going to get after Max here.
My advice to Max was this. If the team CEO is calling into the morning show to defend you for something you did, chances are you probably should keep doing it.
No.
Because
Probably
that's a good business decision.
Why isn't Sean Henry having Pete Weber and everybody else say we then?
Look, I can't tell you what he wants other people to do. I just know that if he's calling in to defend Max, chances are he probably encourages that behavior.
He's just trolling us,
Jared,
just like you.
have
I'm
yourself-
not. And you know me, I'm the least. I am the least. You know how much I hate,
You're the biggest fanboy in town. You're
Water
the least
carrying.
what? Oh, yeah, okay.
like the way that, the people across the street carry the water for the Titans sometimes. Like, I am so against that. I am so against people just blatantly lying about what happened or didn't happen. But at the same time, I understand team broadcasts. That's why I don't get mad at, Dave McGinnis and Mike Keith when they do a podcast with Rand Carthon, and the questions are like, Rand, I'll tell you, it's a great thing you didn't go to the Senior Bowl. I'll tell you, that's the smartest thing you ever did. Is there a question in that? No. That's why I'm okay with it. It's a team broadcast.
Don't say we. That's all I'm saying.
Jared, have yourself a wonderful weekend, my friend.
Boys, I am over here petrified of these two games this weekend for the Predators.
Yes.
And have we made a big deal about Gentry Estes saying that Candace Lee probably wants to keep Jerry Stackhouse with NIL money? And is Joe on board with that or not?
We're going to get to
I
it.
saw your text.
We're going to get to it.
Hey, you didn't text back.
Well, it was late. Don't text me that late.
Thank you, Jared.
Bye.
Goodbye.
We'll react to what Jared had to say next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Tune in to 93.3 Classic Hits tomorrow as MTSU basketball takes on Western Kentucky at home. Pregame at 6 o'clock, tip-off 6:30 with coverage also available on the 93.3 Classic Hits app and at 93.3classichits.com. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls. Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Thanks to our good buddy Jared Stillman for being with us in the last segment. Teron Davenport will join us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Titans with him as the NFL Combine is happening next week. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. This Saros-Askarov discussion is fun. It really is. Fans are eating it up. Really interested to see what happens here before the deadline. What do you think about like the team success part of this? They're winning right now. They've won 3 in a row. If they keep playing well before the deadline, I'll ask you the same question I asked Jared. Should it influence what Barry Trotz does, and do you think it will influence what Barry Trotz does, which are two different questions?
Specifically with Saros?
Yeah, we'll Saros, but really the whole team.
Well, I don't. I could be wrong. I do think that I would separate those out. Like, first of all, I think any decent return on like anybody other than the obvious untouchables is fine. There's no one among the non-untouchables, which is absolutely not a word, who's
the
lost
non-touchables.
The non-touchables,
yes.
That would be better at least. Whose absence is going to cripple the team. Novak is one of those guys that he's heating up a little bit. That's big for them. They need that secondary scoring, but you could, it's not like you're just completely dependent on him. You're dependent on your top line, and
by the way, I'm totally with Jared on that. I'm not giving Tommy Novak $4 million a year. I'm not giving him anywhere in the fours per year. It's just not happening.
No, I agree with that. I don't agree. I'd like your thoughts on because I just think the Saros thing, in a way I agree with him, like the price is the price in terms of if he gets what he likes, then yeah, sorry guys, like I have to do this for the future of the team. I don't agree though that he should be inflexible right now and like that's it, meet it or nothing. I think if there's some team out there that really wants him, I think you have to have discussions. You may need to drop it a little bit.
Yeah, I think to a point.
To a point, not dramatically.
Yeah, like I do think you do still have like the background of the summer in mind in terms of like if somebody trades for Saros over the summer, they still have the opportunity to have him for a full year and then immediately begin contract extension talks after that. So there is value in that. Is there as much value in that as there is right now when you get in for potentially 2 postseason runs guaranteed? No. So your maximum value is now. Now, having said that, we talked about this last offseason. The absolute maximum value you were ever going to have for UC Saros was last summer at the draft.
After he had a fantastic year, and I'd love to know what the conversations were then.
Yep.
And what it is now. Has it reduced significantly? And the thing is, if so, then it's going to keep going that way.
Well, you're right about that. Like the price is going to drop. Like the more time that goes on before he is extended, the price is going to drop. It's simple math, right? Like if you're a team right now and you don't get him this year, it's like, well, we could have had him for 2 postseason runs and then with an opportunity to extend him, and now it's 1 year where his contract expires and we would really like to have an extension done with him too. So there's that part of it. Like if this drags into next season, the return will be significantly lower. There's no question about that. Like I don't think that's arguable. So, Barry Trotz knows that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I do think that. You basically, you're trying to figure out. Okay, if I go to this, let's say I drop down and it's prospects and picks and it's not this proven NHL player I want. That's just an example. Whatever it may be. Then you're comparing that to like, okay, so a year from now, what is it?
Right.
Okay, this is actually better than that. So, okay, well, if that's the case, then to me, the fact that this team's in a playoff chase right now does not factor in my opinion. I mean, there is a bigger picture here, and there always was going to be a bigger picture here about this season.
Coming up next, there was an unfounded rumor, I guess, with the Tennessee Titans that appears to have been shut down yesterday. We'll get into that coming up next. Make sure you tune into 94.9 The Fan today as Vanderbilt baseball takes on Gonzaga at Hawkins Field with pregame at 4:15, first pitch at 4:30. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 93.3 Classic Hits this Sunday for coverage of the Am Better Health 400 in Atlanta. Coverage will begin at 1 o'clock with the race starting at 2. Coverage also available on the 93.3 Classic Hits app and at 933classichits.com. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up at 7:45. Looking forward to that.
I got too much stuff going on. The we thing is just getting me. upset. Real quick though, Dylan's saying, like he doesn't like. First of all, what do you think of my Mike Keith? What do you think?
Needs improvement.
Needs improvement.
Yeah.
Sick. I love that stuff. Again, I like announcers who have fun, and now sometimes they can go a little far, right? So there was a Detroit Lions announcer many years ago. So, it's like the usual thing of the teams. If if the home team scores, you're excited.
Sure.
So it'd be like, and Joey Harrington drive back, and there's an interception for a touchdown. And the Lions lose again.
And they're it's 41-7. Okay,
right?
Alrighty.
Yeah, like I expect there to be some difference for sure, but like I think Willie, for example, I think he has the perfect. There's a little more volume, like in the Preds score, but if the other team makes a huge play that scores, like it's still like goal. Like
you just trying to suck up to Willie because we bashed his goalie take earlier.
Well, just wait till the rant because we're gonna rip basically everybody who works at this place. Let's do it.
I'm looking forward to it. Jacob in Hermitage says, I think it's a Robby and Rexrode kind of day. So Creed over Pearl Jam. Also said that too.
Oh, wait. Okay.
I'm just telling you what he said.
But Jacob, you're not serious, all right?
I am.
You are not. You think Creed's better than Pearl Jam.
You can't understand what Pearl Jam's even saying. I know exactly what Scott Staff's saying.
Dude, you're just trolling me. This is enough trolling.
Could be an interesting Rex rant coming up here in a few minutes. DeAndre Hopkins apparently making his intentions pretty clear yesterday. So he has since deleted this tweet, Joe Rexrode, for reasons which I don't know why, but he has. But I found it anyway.
What's up with that whole thing with deleting tweets?
I don't know. I don't know why people do that. At NFL Rums, short for NFL Rumors, on Twitter yesterday.
Is that a garbage account?
I don't know. Says, something to watch. Tennessee Titans DeAndre Hopkins could look for another team next season on a mutual parting of ways. Which, first off, why would the Titans want to do that? Hopkins came there with Mike Vrabel and the former OC of the Texans. Both are now gone. D-Hop would have a $16.4 million cap savings if he was cut with June 1st. And the tweet goes on to lay out his contract stuff. DeAndre Hopkins tweets this yesterday and just says, cap, with 1, 2, 3 exclamation points after that. So as we know, which we'll get into here in just a few minutes, but cap meaning
BS.
BS.
Right.
So apparently DeAndre Hopkins making the intentions pretty clear yesterday. He will be here. He will be here with the Tennessee Titans and has every intention of being here with the Tennessee Titans. Now, why did he delete the tweet after that? I don't know, but that's what he said.
Yeah, it's good to have some clarity there from him. This whole thing has been, remember, going back to the end of the season, Jimmy Wyatt's asked him all these questions like, hey, Jim, did you not know he's under contract next year? And then Jim gets after me and says, well, people force their way out. I'm like, that's a good point. Now Kaharski's like, that's ridiculous. He's under contract. But, there's a reality of like an unhappy player, and it's especially like new coach and everything. He did come here with Vrabel, the relationship. I think that mattered. The most money offered mattered more than anything else.
Correct.
But I think the Vrabel thing mattered, and now the quarterback could matter in that. Now I think Hopkins, he had a few times this year where he was really. He likes him some Will Levis. I think he does.
Yeah.
Now I think a couple times Will Levis got after him, and I was like, is that okay? But he seemed to take it well, and the bottom line is if you can play, Hopkins is a pro. Show me. Do it, So I think it makes sense. I'm not surprised that he would – well, I guess I'm maybe a little surprised he would go out of his way to do it, and then really surprised he'd delete it. Does deleting it mean that actually now he reconsidered, he wants out?
I don't know.
NFL rumors? Start the rumor.
Well, I hadn't really thought about it, but now –
now that you mention it, yes, I want out.
Yeah. Look, as we discussed this with Kaharski the other day, like the options really beyond DeAndre Hopkins, like walking into the Titans facility one day and looking at Rand Carthon and being like, hey, man, I got to get out of here. Like, I want out of here and I want to be traded, and you need to make that happen. Like, beyond that happening, I couldn't see a scenario. Like, the Titans, it would make no sense for the Titans to cut him, right?
Oh, heck no.
They need him desperately based on their wide receiving room right now.
If he's like, I'm going to make your life hell next year.
Right.
Callahan, then, okay. Well, then maybe you have to be like, well, oh, boy. But no, and he's a pro anyway, so I think it's all puffery, basically.
I think
it's all cap.
It's all cap.
That's really what it is.
I think it is too. And look, I mean, there are going to be questions about him just from the outside looking in next year. He's 31. He'll be 32 in June. So, you're starting to get up there a little bit in terms of NFL wide receiver age. What does his production look like next year? We had the same questions last year about injuries and the PED suspension for Hopkins. Would that, coming off of those things, would you be able to put together a full season in Tennessee? And to his credit, all 17 games, 75 catches, over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns in an offense that for the most part was abysmal. And without him, I mean, think about what that offense would have looked like without Hopkins last year.
Oh, no doubt. What would be funny is going back to probably around a year ago, is some of I know for sure I'll raise my hand some of the stuff I said when the Hopkins stuff first started to come up, because I was like, I was in on the Julio thing. I was out early on the idea of Hopkins because it's like there's another guy, PED thing, injuries, blah, blah, blah. So raise my hand. Very, very wrong about that. He's tremendous.
Well, I mean, he worked out, I think, about as well as you could have hoped for, right? I mean,
oh, yeah. And the thing is, if you told me it would work out like that, then I would have thought a very different outcome for the team.
Well, for sure. And we talked about this with Derrick Henry, but like even him heading into next year, if you could fix the offensive line and give your quarterback more protection and Levis starts to, continue to develop, could he be even better? Like at age 32, could he be better than 75 catches, 1,057 yards, and 7 touchdowns for you? I mean, if so, that's pretty good news for the Titans next year.
Yeah, I don't have any reason to think that he doesn't have it in him. It's so much about – it's the same thing with like Levis' performance next year. I mean, if you give them the proper support pieces or some of them, enough of them, then yeah, I think it could be good.
I mean, his days of catching 115 balls for 1,500 yards and double-digit touchdowns are probably gone. I think we would probably all agree with that. But, if you have competent play around him next year, could he get, 80, 85 catches, 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards, somewhere in that neighborhood? And, I mean, based on what he did last year, I don't think it's a huge stretch to say he could do that if the conditions around him improve.
No doubt. I mean, look, there were plenty of plays last year that he was prepared to make that the ball never got to him because of the offensive line, and he still had that production. And he had nobody else who scared anyone a little teeny bit at all on the field. Imagine if he has a guy who does, or a couple guys who can come in and actually make a defense think a little bit.
Josh on the text line says, I just learned what cap means, and I hate my generation. Just say BS. Glad he's staying. No cap. This is from Josh from Columbia on the text line.
How old are you, Josh?
Give us your age.
Let us know. Need to know your age. This relates to our upcoming discussion.
We do. It does. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, it's time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning at 7:45 here on the program. Tune in to 102.5 The Game tomorrow as Vanderbilt men's basketball takes on Florida on the road. Pregame at 11:30, tip-off at noon, with coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at theGameNashville.com. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Joe, man, where you been drinking your coffee at lately? Is it Starbucks, Dunkin' Exxon station? What's going on with you, man?
Do you not understand the English language?
He's still upset from the competition the other day.
W-E-L-L, will celebrate.
You can't seriously, you're still trying to say he said we.
It's close enough. Calling field stands.
Close enough. There we go.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning at 7:45. Joe Rexrode's Rant of the Day. I have a feeling there are just multiple options growing for a rant by each passing segment today here on the program.
Well, there are. The we thing is just never going to stop. People keep coming at me with, I want my announcer to be Homer. Fine. They're not playing. That's all I'm saying. They are not playing the game. Don't say we. So I got the old man yelling at the old man, get off my lawn. Fine. Do you agree with me or disagree?
I 100% agree with you. Do I think that most of the general public agrees with us? No, I don't.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that.
But I'm 100% with you.
Well, let me. I'm no expert, okay, on anything. But I would suspect that people who listen to radio broadcasts may trend more in my age than the 20s age.
Okay.
What would you say about that?
Generally speaking, yes, probably.
Okay.
Although we welcome all sorts of people.
Well, of course. But I'm just saying, if you want to say this is about, older people or whatever, I think a lot of them like people who just don't say we. I really think it's like whenever that happens, I've seen many other people complain about it. Yeah. Within earshot. I really think that just the we part, not talking about, yes, your home announcer get excited, all that stuff. Just don't claim to be doing the thing on the – see, this is not supposed to be the rant. But, Jared brought up Sean Henry, so we went back and forth, and then he finally said, well, why don't you write a rule book? And I said, well, maybe I will write a rule book. But his question that Sean asked me was, so who can't say we?
I hope you do write a rule book.
I might. But it's very simple. The rule book, again, like he was like, are you we at 1025? And we were like, well, yeah, we are doing the show, so we are
correct.
The players. And he said, okay, then who can't say we? And he's like, yeah, if you own the team, if you run the station, you can say we. But also, there's really nothing that exactly compares to playing sports, right? Like we make the comparison all the time, but it's not exactly, it's not apples to apples. But he did say I should write Rex rules. It's very simple. It's one rule. If you're an announcer, don't say we.
There you go. Pretty cut and dry.
If you are a color commentator who played on the team or something like that, I don't like it, but it's okay. But play-by-play, hell no. And 99% of play-by-play announcers do not do it. Am I right or wrong?
I believe you're correct about that.
All right. So let's get to this other thing I'm mad about. It's actually pretty funny, but I didn't know. You told me that Jared. All right, tell me what you told
so I'm
me.
hopping in the car yesterday at 4 o'clock, and the TD Power Hour just happened, which, by the way, TD's coming on our show here in about 10 minutes. Looking forward to that. And they were, Jared got back on there discussing the DeAndre Hopkins tweet. And I guess he said, and Joe Rexrode is taking this opportunity to talk about the cap being real again. How the cap is real. Going back to your tweet that you had about the DeAndre Hopkins thing yesterday, which said what? You're making a joke about the salary cap when he said cap.
Yeah, so that's just, that's classic. I wish I knew that, but you've told me, or maybe I wish I didn't know that. But now that I know that, Jared's now, there are a lot of people.
Let's read your tweet.
Yeah, let's read my tweet.
Your tweet says, confirmation, cap is real.
Right.
Talking about DeAndre Hopkins with the cap.
Right. Hopkins tweeted cap, and I said, confirmation, cap is real. Ha, 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 ha. Most people got the joke. Some people on Twitter didn't. So I need to ask Caroline Fenton and Chase McCabe.
Okay.
Because they had funny memes, like Caroline had the hello, young kids, which we love, the Steve Buscemi. And then Chase had the, like, I'm in my I don't know who this is, but it's like a really old dude with a big beard saying, I'm in my prime, So I kind of took that as like they're in on the joke, but they're just, you know what I mean? But were they not? Did they actually think I was serious?
My favorite response that you got was from Scribina saying, LOL, pretty sure he's calling the rumor a lie. Your response, gee, thanks, Paul.
Thanks a bunch. Guys, I have 3 teenagers. My middle one has been saying that's cap since like 2017.
That's
like,
true.
I mean, come on.
Also,
come on.
Chase's gift back to you was Cy Robertson from Duck Dynasty.
Oh, yeah, Duck Dynasty guy. Yeah. I'm in my prime. I mean, that was funny. I hope, Chase and Caroline, you realize I was kidding. Jared didn't. So I texted Jared after you told me that. I said, you thought my tweet about Hopkins was serious? WTF is wrong with you? Jared texted back, sure, because it was stupid, and talking about the salary cap makes you stupid. And then I said, dismissing it altogether as you do makes you dumber than anyone else talking the NFL, which is sad. Doesn't have to be that way.
It always leads back to the cap.
Always leads back to the cap. Jared has to. He and the maggots must continue to bray like idiot donkeys. I don't know why I just called maggots donkeys, but this is how flustered I am about the stupid cap stuff rather than actually have good discussions about the NFL. Yes. Because he's been caught in a stupid take, and he's going Skip Bayless and LeBron with it. Just keep pushing LeBron garbage, Skip, because you just are terribly wrong and you don't want to just take an L. Take a freaking L.
Oh,
this rant just completely all over the place and makes no sense.
We just got to be better about recognizing. I got your joke immediately. I did.
Most people did. Yeah, there were a few people who were just like, hey, dummy. I'm like, dude, I know what cat. This is not some new thing. This is like if somebody in 19.
Tweets are dog water, bro.
If somebody in the early 80s said like groovy or something and people didn't know what it meant, like, yeah, by then everybody knows what it means, right? Everybody knows people don't know what cat means. Now, someone did on the text line say that Will from Nashville says I'm 55 and I've never heard of cat meaning BS. I do look, maybe if I didn't have teenage young kids or whatever, maybe I'd be the same way, but I don't think so. It's pretty common out there, right?
I think so. I mean,
I'm sorry I made a stupid salary cap joke. Can't do anything on social media these days. But in either case, I got porn bots responding immediately to me, so he got that going for me.
There is that.
This rant makes no sense.
The engagement on Twitter has gone up. No question about that. Matt on the text line. As a college alumni, can I say we? Talking about their team.
Of course. Dude, as long as you're not broadcasting the game to an audience as a professional, yes, fans can say we, of course.
This is going down a serious rabbit hole.
I just don't want someone calling a game to say, wow, we just had a great touchdown drive there. No, the Titans just had a great touchdown drive there. It's very simple. Like, this is not hard.
Got a text that says, Joe, the only people who agree with you are boomers. Not sure why you're so obsessed with this we thing.
Well, it keeps coming up. I mean, I was just giving Max a hard time, and it's become a thing. But seriously, guys, I don't agree with you,
started off
Robby.
as a joke.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, whoa, did he say we? No, let's give Max some crap. Guys, I don't agree with you, Robby. I think most people do not want to hear their play-by-play announcer say we. I really believe that. And they yell when there's a touchdown or a goal or whatever, and that's all fine. And even like Hawk Harrelson, put it on the board, yes! The worst announcer in the history of sports. I don't even know if he said we.
Catching some strays today here on this program.
And Hawk Harrelson, man, the absolute worst. Yeah. Like I said,
add it to the rant.
Just add it to the rant. Man, random stuff. What else can piss me off right now? How much time we got? Got another minute? All right.
Joe, your clout is just growing majorly with all of this.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
My clout?
Yeah, do you not know what that one is?
Joe, do you know what the word clout means?
Oh, my God.
What about cap? He's just all over you all the time now.
Yeah, there are a lot of people, though, they're on the text line. They're like, I didn't know that it was. So, okay. So I suppose then I should be a little less outraged with people who thought I didn't know too, but that's got to be. Again, I had an 11-year-old that everything I used to say would be like, oh, that's cap.
Jared texts me, he says, quoting you, older people don't like we. Floyd Reese sure liked we, is what Jared said.
What does that mean?
I'm just telling you what he said.
So did Floyd Reese tell Mike Keith, you must say we after something if we make a play? You did it too. Say we. Bull crap.
No, but Floyd did say we, but again, Floyd's not calling the game. So
Floyd.
He's talking about even in the radio
Floyd
part of it.
put the team together for years. He's not a play-by-play announcer. Jaron always has to go on offshoots instead of the actual discussion because he loses. And so, like, well, let me change it a little bit and spin it my way. Shut up.
This has been the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning at 7:45 here on the program. May need to get a blood pressure sponsor.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Long fuse.
Yes.
Long fuse.
On display. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD. We'll get his thoughts on all things Tennessee Titans. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
ESPN's Turon Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
Friday morning at 8 o'clock, it means it's time for Turon Davenport to be with us here on the program on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, host of Talking with TD, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter. TD, good morning, man. What's going on? How we doing?
Hey, good morning. All is well, man. How are you guys?
We're awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. Turon Davenport, brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. TD was with us earlier this week, too, filling in for Joe Rexrode. We had a lot of fun on Monday. Go check that out if you missed that conversation. TD, the Combine coming up next week, and it's Joe Rexrode's favorite event of the year. He really loves all things NFL Combine. But as Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan are prepared to speak, what's the number one thing that you're looking for, that you are curious about for the Tennessee Titans heading into Combine week here next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think as always, you want to see how the receivers run, how the cornerbacks run, the skill positions. I'm looking forward to seeing, these guys up close and personal, right? Getting to actually feel their size and things like that. As far as, you can feel their presence when you're talking to them. But I think as far as, from Rand Carthon and the Titans brass, that's the biggest thing that they should be looking forward to, just those meetings and getting down there and just sitting and talking to them and picking their mind and seeing, gauging their love for the football. That's something that you want to kind of fill out and discover when you're talking to them.
So TD, I feel like 5 people in particular are of interest to me, and I wanted to see if you agree. I think I'm discounting Marvin Harrison Jr. because I just think that I don't think it makes sense at all for the Titans to try to move up. I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think there's any chance of them getting him. But I think Odunze and Neighbors have to be guys you have to be really seriously looking at if you're the Titans, not knowing how the board's going to fall. And obviously Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, right? But the 5th guy, and I want to get your thoughts on this guy, Fuaga, the tackle from Oregon State. I'm seeing more momentum from him, I guess, and just the idea that he may not be all that it's always been kind of sold, I guess, as early on here in the early going as 2 guys in a 1 tier, and then there's a bunch of other good tackles. But I'm hearing more about him as a possibility. What do you think about him as a player?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's a good player and a solid prospect, but he's definitely not on the same tier as those guys. He's not somebody I would take at 7. But at the same time, you still if this were the old Titans, I say, yeah, he'd be in play because that dude is, to use their words, he's a road grader, right? A run blocker, a bulldozer. He gets his hands on you, it's pretty much over. And you watch his tape, man, it's very physical. But I saw, going against, a guy in Adisa Isaac down at the Senior Bowl, they had really good back and forth. I don't know how he would do against some of those edge rushers, those guys that come off of there that aren't too tall, but they're able to bend. Think Harold Landry. It would be interesting watching him go against a guy like Landry.
So you think there's a pretty clear separation then between those two and him?
Yeah, for sure. There's a very, very clear separation. And then on top of that, Fuaga is not a guy I would flip to left tackle. So you need bookends, right? Regardless, you need a left and a right. This league is designed to where you have guys coming off of both sides. But I still think the left tackle position is more important for the Titans, especially with Will Levis, who still has to get his pocket presence and just awareness better, because he got some really bad blindside hits. So you have to make sure that left side is taken care of. And that's why Olu Fashanu with Bill Callahan coaching, or Joe Alt just coming in and taking that number 76 and playing left tackle for the next 10 years would be perfect.
So, TD, let's take it the other way and focus in on the receivers here. Let's say the Titans have their pick of Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors, and they want to go wide receiver there. They've got those 2 guys rated higher. Who do you like more, Odunze or Neighbors with this group and this team?
Hey, Rexo, remember Outkast had that old song, Benz or a Beamer?
Yes.
That's what this is. Do you want a Benz or a Beamer? I think you can't go wrong with either one. I just got done 3 or 4 games of Rome Odunze, and the thing is with him, man, and what I love is when the game's on the line, that dude comes in and steps up. You know, he had a couple game-winning touchdowns there for them. His ability to just go up and get the ball and make that contested catch is awesome. He's a guy that they moved all over the place, and they found ways to get him open and get the ball and make plays, you know. So you have that, but then you got Malik Neighbors, who, I mean, this dude is just like a touchdown waiting to happen. You know, you throw the short pass, and he'll take it the distance, and he's another one that you can move around. So preference-wise, I would probably go with Odunze. I just love that ability to just make that play when it matters and make it against pretty good players. You know, that Oregon tape, both games were really fun to watch. You know, he had the game winner against in the first game, you know, and he made a couple touchdown catches over a corner I really like in Kyrie Jackson. So, I definitely would go Odunze.
So, meanwhile, free agency coming shortly here, TD. We've talked about what can the Titans do. I mean, certainly they have money, they have possibility, they have cap space, which is an important thing to have. I feel like corner is a possible spot where they could make a big splash. I think interior offensive line, certainly there's some pretty good options. What about those? What else are you looking at positionally? And at those two spots, anyone in particular you like for this team?
Yeah, I think receiver is a position you have to look at as well. And, I mean, going back to corner, if you make the big splash, right, it's going to be a Jalen Johnson or L'Jarius Sneed. I don't think either one of them come available. And, frankly, like, if I'm the one doing it, I don't know that either one of those are a $25 million a year player. You know what I mean? At least not for me. I wouldn't spend the money on that. But if you turn around and you look at some of the more efficient guys that you could kind of get the best out of with Denard Wilson and Chris Harris and the crew, you know, I really love the possibility of Jeff Okudah. And I know he didn't do well in Detroit, had the injuries. I don't know what happened.
He had Achilles, right? He had Achilles, I think, didn't
Achilles.
he?
Yeah, in Detroit, first year, you know, but he's so talented, you know what I mean? So you definitely, I would look at that. Chidobe Awuzie is a guy, you know, physical corner. He could play multiple spots. And, you know, Denard Wilson said that he wants versatile players, so he's another one. So those are a couple guys that I would look at. As far as the interior part, I think Robert Hunt is a clear favorite, you know, when it comes to the guard position. So you have that. Receiver-wise, I mean, there are all types of ways that you could go, depending on what the price tag comes in at. I think Hollywood Brown, you know, you combine his vertical speed with Levis's vertical passing ability, and you got something cooking there, but it's just, what is that price going to be? You know what I mean? If you want to go a little bit less expensive, well, a lot less expensive, a lot less productive, you know what I mean? You got Darnell Mooney, who I think would be a good option as well. Tyler Boyd also. And you know, even returner, I would sign Devin Duvernay. He's a guy I would bring in, you know, former Texas State 100-meter champ. You saw what he did in Baltimore over the years as a punt returner, and he brings the electricity as a kick returner as well.
TD, we talked about this a little bit on Monday, but you know, if you're Rand Carthon heading into the draft here at 7 overall, you've got the opportunity to take an elite player. You're also staring at a roster right now that needs a lot of players and needs a lot of young players coming in on rookie deals. So how open would you be if you're Rand Carthon to moving back off of number 7 in this draft? And I guess what would it have to do, what would have to be a part of that deal in order for you to actually consider doing it if you're Carthon and the Titans?
Yeah, but I would be open to doing it, like maybe moving back, you know, 3 or 4 spots. You look at if a team wants to jump the Falcons, right, and take a Odunze or take you know, one of the quarterbacks, you know, that's something. The Jets, you know, that's another area where if the Jets want to move up and get one of the offensive linemen, I would consider that. But then again, offensive line is a position you need. So the moving back part of it is something I would consider, but it would have to include at least another second and maybe a fourth or something like that, or some way to recoup that third-round pick that they don't have. Those would have to be the things. And, I mean, if they were to move back, you know, you look at the receiver position, you know, a guy like Keon Coleman will probably be there, you know, in that 15 to 20 range. And, look, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does at the combine, and he's someone that I would imagine would fit what the Titans want to do pretty well from a receiver perspective.
Yeah, he's a freak. He's gonna be fascinating. No doubt about it. As far as backup quarterback for this team, TD, what do you think is the future for Malik Willis? Do you think the Titans should get someone who's a veteran who has played more in this league, has succeeded more in this league, or do you think that Willis has a future here?
No, I think they should get somebody that has played more in this league. Andy Dalton is a good option. One of those type of players, Jacoby Brissett, that type of player would be perfect for them.
Well, TD, great stuff as always, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week after the Combine. Tell us about our friends at ESPN Bet Sportsbook.
Yeah, for sure, man. ESPN Bet is now live in Tennessee. It's the official sports book of ESPN and the only place you can find daily exclusives and offers with your favorite ESPN personalities and shows. You can sign up today, and as a new user, you get $100 in bonus bets for making any sportsbook bet. You get all your favorite markets and bets like in-game wagering, cross-sport parlays, teasers, and all the props you can handle. That's ESPN Bet. Download today. What a play. You have to be 21 or older and in Tennessee. For gambling support, call or text TN Redline at 800-889-9789. And as always, terms and conditions apply for details.
All right, two real quick Gen X questions for you, TD, before you go. One, Do you like play-by-play announcers who say we? And two, how many people don't know what cap means?
Yeah, I don't go for the we thing, man. Stay away from that. It's all about objectivity. But if they work for the team, I don't mind it. But as far as cap, yeah, that's we know Jarrett Stillman is one of them that doesn't understand it, but he does now because I schooled him.
There we go.
Good.
There we go.
We
TD,
keep
thanks,
trying
man.
with him.
That's right. We'll react to what TD had to say. Coming up next, take your thoughts on the Titans. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Plus, a free agency ploy that Joe Rexrode believes the Titans should try. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. I got some tickets to give away to see Stained with Seether coming up at First Bank Amphitheater on Tuesday, April 23rd. Be caller number 5, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to see Stained with Seether coming up at First Bank Amphitheater on Tuesday, April 23rd. Robbie and Rexrode brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls. Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Thanks to TD for being with us in the last segment. Joe Rexrode, you have a free agency strategy that you'd like to see the Tennessee Titans employ.
Yeah, well, for one thing, because I think that it could be a nice ad. I mean, I don't know how it would work out, but I also did not know this about the Jaguars, and tell me if you did. So we've talked about Calvin Ridley. I know Kaharski has had his thing about, he initially really liked the idea of Calvin Ridley here. 29, 76 for 10, 16, 8 touchdowns last year, Jacksonville. Contract expired. I did not realize this. So if the Jags re-sign him before free agency, right, that's an extension, so then Atlanta gets a second-round pick.
Okay.
Now, if he gets to free agency and ends up signing with the Jags, then, it's a third-rounder. I mean, that's still something. It's not nothing, but I think there's a pretty decent difference. I certainly would much rather hold on to a second than a third. I mean, the second
sure.
you can make hay in the third too, of course. But so it's interesting to see what the Jags are going to do. Are they going to risk it? Maybe they won't. I mean, maybe they're just going to sign him and they give up the second, and that's that. But if they don't, then I've brought up John Koncak before, and this is a little different, obviously, than like a RFA with an offer sheet, but it's kind of the same idea, which is like go after him, and if you can get him, I mean, I think he's pretty freaking good. I don't know everything, and Kaharski's talking in code about whatever stuff he's heard. Like I don't know that. I do know that he was pretty good this year. And so if you get him, then you get him. And I think he's, as far as free agent receivers, and I don't know exactly what the cost would be. That's a big question. But I think you go after him, and then obviously the Jags may have to overpay. But either way, make them pay for risk it if they do risk it.
76 catches, over 1,000 yards last year, 8 touchdowns. Honestly, his stats are almost identical to DeAndre Hopkins and what he did last year. How much does he cost, I think, is really the question. He's 29 right now. He'll be 30 next year. So at his age, with his background, how much does he cost? And if it is closer to, 16, 17, 18, $19 million, are you doing that if you're the Titans? And you're paying, what's Hopkins making this year? 16.4, somewhere in that neighborhood?
That's right.
So are you paying Calvin Ridley similar price, maybe a little bit more at that point? Or do you take your chances on, a wide receiver maybe in the second round? Like that's an interesting, you bring up the Jacksonville part of this. So Jacksonville, from the draft capital standpoint, would you be willing to sign Calvin Ridley back, ensure that he doesn't go anywhere, give up a second-round pick, wait to free agency, sign it back to get a third-round pick? Or at number 17 overall,
they're moving on.
Do you say, we're moving on and we'll find a receiver at number 17 overall?
And if that's how they're thinking, then my ploy doesn't work.
Yep.
But it may be, because it's a definitely strong enough receiver draft for them there to get someone good. Like we just talked about Keon Coleman. I think he might be pretty freaking good in the NFL. There's a lot of guys who they could get there, even maybe move up. There's someone they love, move down, whatever. But yeah, it's so much of it is about what they think about him. The production is good, and I feel like the Jags, obviously Kirk has worked out well for them. I mean, they have a good thing going, I think, with offensive skill.
Yeah,
even though it wasn't enough to to win the division this year. But yeah, maybe it's a 1 year thing and they're moving on, and they look at either of those picks as non-negotiable.
Well, and then if you're the Titans, and look, the Ayuk thing again, you're talking about a trade situation that has to get there. So there's a lot that has to happen for him to even become available and for you to be the team that lands him. Same thing with T. Higgins. Free agent-wise, like Ridley is one of your better options. Like if Mike Evans gets to free agency, then there will be people interested in him. I don't think he's going to get to free agency, but we'll wait and see what happens there. Are you better off? Like, is there a free agent out there? Is Ridley one of them? Would Evans be one of them that if they get there is attractive enough for you to commit that money if you're Rand Carthon and the Titans? And by attractive enough, I mean more attractive than just saying, you know what, with our second-round pick, we're going to take a receiver, and that's going to be our number 2 guy, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I mean,
you could do both. You could get the receiver that's big money in free agency and still draft a receiver in the second round.
Right. I mean, you may come across an edge that you absolutely love and you can't believe you got a chance to draft him in the second round. You know, I mean, there's so many needs that I do think that the positions that we've been talking about, interior O-line, corner, I mean, I think you have to do something in free agency at both of them because I just think it's just a better crop of possibilities.
Can they afford to draft a corner with one of those first 2 picks? Like everybody just assumes in some order it's going to be offensive lineman and wide receiver. Could you go corner with like your second round pick?
You know, it's
one of a lot of that.
And then the combine, you know. Yeah. Then you have a lot more clarity going into the combine with all these teams if you have the free agency period first. But yeah, I think that's so much about that. I mean, it's always, I do buy into the best player on the board, and it's like, look, you know, this Toledo corner, he won't. He's going to go in the first round, but I'm just using it as an example. You know, this Toledo corner, Missouri's got a good corner. You know, fell here, can't believe it, top player on our board. I mean, you got to have this team badly needs that. It's just, yeah, the question is, okay, what did you do to address all the offensive deficiencies prior to that?
Ed on the text line says, since the Titans can't fill all the holes in draft or free agency, what position group would you be willing to ignore and wait until next year?
Well, I mean, to me, I think you can live with – I mean, like, I don't like it, but I think you can live with ignoring safety. I mean, in some way you have to bolster it, but, like, you could –
go Molden there.
You could go Molden and Hooker. I think you can
get Kevin Byard after he gets cut.
Well, there you go. That's true. Bring back Byard. Triple B, bring back Byard. You got D tackle. Like, I mean, you could look at it like Jeff and some other guys. And okay, to that question, Ed, I don't think you can ignore both edge and interior. Okay? I mean, I think you need to address both. But I think you can get away with not addressing one of them. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
But to your point, like, there are so many needs between both things, free agency and the draft. But you can't ignore receiver. You can't ignore offensive tackle. I don't believe that you can ignore cornerback either and be a competitive defense in the NFL next year.
What about center? Like, could you roll things back with Aaron Brewer at center?
I mean, I think you want to upgrade, but I don't think that's absolutely. I mean, I think I'm big on going after interior guys in free agency, a center, all that, but it's not at the top of my list of you cannot function as a team next year if you go with Aaron Brewer. It's not all that bad as some people want to make it out to be.
Another one I would add to the list of what you need to upgrade, in my opinion, and some people disagree with this, and that's fine. I think you need to upgrade at tight end, but it's not on the top of the priority list, unless Brock Bowers is sitting there.
Well, right. No, but that's a good answer to Ed, too. It's like, I mean, could you go with Chig, Wiley, and a UDFA grinder? Yes. Is it ideal? No. But, again, you gotta make some tough choices here.
Yep. And then some people would say right tackle. Now, I'm on the other side of that. I think right tackle needs to be a pretty high priority for the Titans this offseason, but you could – whether it's a combo of Radens and Petit Frere, whoever that is, or bring back, Could you move Jalen Duncan over to right tackle and have Bill Callahan work with him? I mean, there's options you've got there. Chris Hubbard, could you bring him back? I mean, you could do those things, but I think you need to have a little bit more of a serious conversation about your right tackle.
I think you do, but I would also I'd put him in that category of like you have options. And look, it's an interesting, like Duncan with Callahan. I do think he's very talented. Who knows if he can put it all together. Nicholas Petit-Frere with Callahan. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. Like, if you can find a starting right tackle, great. But I would not have that at the absolute height. And by the way, TD was talking about Fuaga. I mean, some people think he is a left tackle, but he is known more as a masher, and I agree. I think pass pro has to be, like, job one. And in terms of Alt and Fashanu, both of them are said to be analyzed to be elite.
Coming up next, it's time for another season of weekend winners here on the
boy.
program. Joe Rexrode, fresh off a Pigskin Pick'em championship. We'll see if he can keep things going in weekend winners. That's next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you. Now
on ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A new season of weekend winners is upon us now. Joe Rexrode, fresh off a Pigskin Pick'em championship.
Thank
See
you.
if you can keep things going.
Got
here in
some
weekend winners.
Got some pepperoni and hot honey pizza coming my way, courtesy of last place Nick Keyser, right?
That is true.
That's fine with me.
Looking forward to it.
Our Pigskin Pick'em competition came down to the wire.
Same stakes?
Same stakes. So, Nick could be paying for lunch left and right. We'll see.
All right. We'll pick a different place for you next time to buy me food.
Don't guarantee anything, Joe. You can't do that.
No guarantees.
Wow.
Believe me, I will not guarantee anything. That's probably going to be my one time.
All right, we begin with the Predators and the San Jose Sharks coming up tomorrow night. This one's just straight up, so just who wins the game. Joe Rexrode, since you won the competition last time out, you're up first. Who wins, Preds or San Jose Sharks?
Yeah, I'm going to go Preds lock. And I know that's a risky proposition because they have had a thing of playing up to competition, playing down to competition, not responding well to praise, responding very well to or responding a lot better to criticism / amazing concerts that you should never miss being taken away from them. But the Sharks are absolute trash, dog water, cheeks. So give me the Preds, make it a lock.
I will also go with the Nashville Predators. I will not make it my lock. I will go Predators to take down the San Jose Sharks. Nick Keyser, Preds and Sharks coming up from the Shark Tank.
Clean sweep. I'm going with the Preds. Easy enough. They should handle them. If they don't, that's embarrassing.
Then we move to the next night. The Predators taking on the Anaheim Ducks. Second half of back-to-back. I'm up first. Give me the Ducks. I'm going the Anaheim Ducks to win that one. I think, first off, second half of back-to-back. And it feels like they're going to drop one of these two. I can't escape the feeling that they're dropping one of the two. So I'll go Ducks against the Predators on Sunday. Nick Keyser, Ducks and Predators. Who you got?
I tend to think the same thing as well. I'm not sure if they can replicate every single performance, especially against a younger Ducks team, and the Sharks, I think, will give them a pretty good test. So I think the Preds will not be at their normal selves as of lately, and they will lose against the Ducks.
Joe Rexrode.
What, are we all going to pick the same stuff every time? I was going to say the same thing, but screw it. Give me the Preds.
Let's say we're all going to pick the Anaheim freaking Ducks.
I know,
to
I'm
win
the
a
reigning,
game.
the reigning champ. I can do whatever I want to do.
That's right, no question. Vanderbilt taking on Florida this weekend on the road. Florida, a 14.5-point favorite we just totally made up because we can't find any lines anywhere. So 14.5 for the Robby and Rexrode Sportsbook. Nick Keyser, who we got, Vanderbilt or Florida?
I'm going to take Florida in this one. I think the way Vanderbilt's been playing the last few games and seeing their performance, they clearly are just out of it. Just all of their players, to me at least, look like they're not in this one, so give me Florida.
Joe Rexrode, Florida, by our own sportsbook that we just made up, favored by 14.5 points.
Yeah, I got to go Gators too. They're playing really well. They had Alabama on the ropes. They should have won at Alabama the other night, which would have been big for Tennessee in the SEC title race, by the way. But I think they're going to respond big time. And Vanderbilt's performance at home against Georgia, which isn't very good, was very discouraging.
Give me Vanderbilt plus the 14.5. I think they show some grit. They show some toughness on the road. They do not win the game, but they also don't lose by more than 14.5 points. So give me the Doors plus 14.5, showing some life for Jerry Stackhouse.
Look at you.
That's what I'm here for.
How about that? Well, maybe they respond to, all the firing talk. Sometimes teams do.
Maybe so. We move to Texas A&M taking on Tennessee. Tennessee at home in this game. A&M with a big win against the Vols a few weeks ago and basically have fallen apart since then. Tennessee, per the Robby and Rexrode Sportsbook, favored by 9.5 points. Joe Rexrode, you're up first.
Yeah, I'll go Vols. I think it's a double-digit win. They've got the added incentive of losing that game a couple weeks ago. Texas A&M's playing terrible since then. They should have built on that and locked themselves into a good NCAA situation, and now they're back probably on the other side of the bubble. But I think the Vols are going to roll at home.
Vols, lock it down on the Vols. They're going to shoot well in this game. Dalton Connect plays well. Vescovy plays well. James plays well. It's just, I think, 20 points. 20-point win for the Vols in this game. Nick Keyser, Vols, taking on Texas A&M.
Second clean sweep, I go with the Vols as well. I feel good. They are vibing right now, Robbie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they are a great basketball team, and they continue to
Phrase that
show
will never
why
die.
they're number 5. So there you go.
We move to the individual portion of the program. 2 individual picks apiece coming up. Joe Rexrode, your first individual selection.
Okay, so like you said, this is weird. This is not normal, right? There's no lines as of 9:40 Eastern on Friday before Saturday basketball games.
Not that I can find at the moment.
So I'm gonna, I'm going hoops. I'm going to. I guess I could go NBA too, and I'm usually pretty good with the NBA. They have, what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pick 2 games that I think are close to pick 'em. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, Houston at Baylor. Houston, I think, will be a little bit of a favorite. Straight up, money line, give me Baylor at home against Houston.
Wow, Baylor to take down Houston. Nick Keyser, your first individual selection.
I could not find a line for this hoops game as well, but I'm going to go over to my WKU Hilltoppers because they're playing the 100 Miles of Hate game this weekend, and they're usually pretty close games. So give me Western Kentucky over MTSU this weekend.
Western over MTSU. I'll start in the National Hockey League. Give me the Edmonton Oilers -1.5 to take down the Minnesota Wild. I've seen John Hines' coach teams try to defend the Edmonton Oilers. It doesn't go well. Oilers -1.5 against the Minnesota Wild. Nick Keyser, your second individual selection.
Doing a hockey game myself, I'm going to do the Columbus Blue Jackets +1.5 over the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres have been struggling, and also Columbus made a trade last night. Not a big one, but Alex Nylander goes over there. So Columbus, I take the 1.5. They're +1.5 over the Sabres tomorrow.
There you go. Blue Jackets +1.5 against Buffalo. Joe Rexrode, your second individual selection and final.
Doing another home team that I think will be a slight underdog. I'll be interested to see when these lines actually come out. Alabama at Kentucky. Kentucky dropped a heartbreaker at LSU the other night on a wild final sequence, but they are playing better. They played terrific at Auburn. I think at home they're going to turn it up and upset Alabama. Give me Kentucky on the money line.
I would take the Miami Heat +3.5 against the New Orleans Pelicans coming up tonight in the NBA. Give me the Heat +3.5. I think they'll win outright.
Homer pick.
Yeah.
But you love your Heat.
I love my Heat. You got to start there.
I probably should have done a Dubs pick. Dubs are rolling now.
Well, they look good last night.
We'll get them next week.
No LeBron.
They did. Well, how much difference does he really make?
What would that guy know to do anyway?
Yeah, exactly. I'm continuing to get.
Are we nervous about the Vols with all of us picking the Vols to roll tomorrow against Texas A&M?
I do think there's a little bit of a matchup thing with A&M. Those guards are really good. And so, they shot way above the norm against the Vols at home. I don't expect that to be the case, but they do. They got to keep people out of the lane and not get in rotation. I mean, their defense, especially on the road, the defensive numbers on the road are not great with Tennessee. Overall, they are great. At home, they're off the charts. So I think, I think they're going to win. Is it possible that A&M keeps it to 6 to 8 points and screws us over? Yes. That would be your lock. So I actually wouldn't be that sad about it.
I'm sure you wouldn't. Vanderbilt on the road taking on Florida, and you got the Jerry Stackhouse situation kind of in the background there of all those things. And Gentry Estes did write a column about, is Vanderbilt actually going to fire Jerry Stackhouse when all this thing is over, and mentioned in there, Candace Story Lee obviously not wanting to fire Jerry Stackhouse. No AD wants to fire their coach that she just gave an extension to. But how do you view where the Jerry Stackhouse part of this sits heading into the game against Florida coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, as far as that column and just the idea of Candace Lee and everything, I absolutely have never thought that she wanted to fire Jerry Stackhouse. Now, she didn't hire him, and that's always a key thing with an AD and a college coach. She did extend him, and that's where I don't have the number. I don't know what the number is to move on from him. Now, I think ESPN had a piece that without again giving the number, called it, quote, prohibitive. I think that's the word ESPN used as they went through like a hot seat kind of quick article going through a bunch of guys. Well, I mean, I don't know what prohibitive means. I'd like to know what that. Or if that is, then it is like she hired him. Then it's a little different situation, right? She made the decision to extend him. ADs do it all the time with coaches in college. I mean, it's a
what else is
it's an
prohibitive?
epidemic.
Keeping him around and letting this continue.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like even if it's a big number to me, I mean, the negativity. This is what it is in college coaching. It gets to a certain point, and I know a lot of really level-headed Vanderbilt fans who some of them have been big supporters of Stackhouse and really thought he was good. Who it's like, yeah, he can't. It's no.
It's time.
Yeah. So I think that's what eventually is going to happen. But until it does, like, we're going to keep getting the question and people are going to keep talking about it. I mean, with Gentry Road, like, it used to be, is Vrabel getting fired? And now the Nashville number one, who's going to get fired? Is John Hines getting fired? They both did. Now it's Stackhouse.
Yeah.
It's his turn. Usually it ends up that way if it becomes that much of a story.
Coming up next, we'll give our final thoughts heading into the weekend. We'll look ahead to the Predators, the trade deadline. They continue to win games. How does that affect the Saros-Ascaro of conversation? More on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting live from our Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios. Keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. Preds win their third in a row last night against L.A. 4-1 the final score. A couple of empty net goals. They're back at it tomorrow against the San Jose Sharks. Sunday against Anaheim. So 3 wins in a row on this road trip. And they're right there on the edge again. So St. Louis wins last night, so they are not technically in a playoff spot, but tied with the Blues at 62 points. They have now moved ahead by 4 points of Minnesota, who plays Edmonton tonight. So if you're a Predators fan, probably be pulling for Edmonton tonight in that game. Seattle at 59 points, Calgary at 59 points as well. So the Preds have done a good job this week of not only hanging in there, but really separating themselves a little bit from some of this group that they were right there with. You get 2 more wins this weekend, then you're feeling obviously great about the road trip, and that would mean you have won 5 in a row heading back home to where you have a 5-game homestand coming up as well. So
starting with the Senators.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you got a chance to make some hay.
You've already let one get away from them as well.
Yeah.
So you got a chance here. I mean, 3 games in a row against teams that are not very good. San Jose, Anaheim, Ottawa.
And then
all not very good. And then you got Minnesota coming on Thursday, which will be a huge game next week. So an opportunity for the Predators here to really, really get going here and put together some points. By the way, I mean, Montreal is after that at home. Buffalo at home. You got an opportunity. I mean, you got Colorado sandwiched in there too. But an opportunity to really keep wins piling up here. And the trade deadline, like your homestand, carries you all the way through the deadline. Trade deadline is March the 8th, which is a Friday coming up after all that. So after this 5-game homestand will be when you have to make that decision.
Yeah, it's interesting because normally you say at home, oh, good. It just hasn't been. So I think that's kind of fitting that you got a 5-game homestand with a whole bunch of what look like winnable games among the 5. I mean, honestly, to me, like, you should get 7 of 10 points on that homestand. I know we're already like looking way past like 2 road games that they have, but that's – and then to me, again, like it's – I don't know about the impact on the deadline. I mean, I suppose we've just almost stopped talking about Barry Trotz bringing something in. It just would be so surprising.
Well, it would be more to me like, would he avoid selling pieces off rather than bringing pieces in? Like, because I think that to me is probably the more likely scenario. Like, would you avoid, let's say Novak, and I do think Novak's a good example. Let's say you don't come to an agreement contractually with Novak by the deadline. Would you be more likely to keep him around if they continue winning? Or are you just committed to selling at all costs if you're Barry Trotz with guys that you know either won't be here next year or who there's a chance won't be here next year because of their contract status?
Yeah, and of course some of that does come down to what's your long-term vision for him?
Yep.
What's the money looking like? How far apart are you? Whatever. Because I mean, I think I like him. I think he's definitely got some skill and some punch, and they need that.
Yep.
But also. And I know he's playing better lately, but like if you move him out and you get a good price for him, again, I just don't think that ends
it's not
your
an
chances.
irreplaceable
I mean, Saros is the move that now you're. How fascinating would it be though if it's like, all right, Yaroslav, can you get this team to the playoffs? How? Sports is how it goes, but it's been a lot of talk for a long time.
Saros is going to get paid somewhere. It's either going to be here or somewhere else. So he's going to be okay. But yeah. It's it becomes really more interesting by the day, and they've continued to roll off wins. Like after the Dallas game, I thought it was pretty clear cut. It kind of felt like everything was falling apart, and they've done a good job of responding since then. So we'll see if they can keep that up this weekend. Joe Rexrode, have a good weekend. Enjoy yourself in Indianapolis next week. As we'll be doing the show live from the Combine, or at least you will.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you from there. I just hope I can do a show with all the excitement brimming out of me at that point.
I'm sure. Jason, Big Joe coming up next.
We will do the show.
102.5, 106.3 The Game.